Welcome to the Mom and podcast. We're your hosts, Suzanne Kearns
and Missy Stevens. We want to help you through everything that happens in the ellipses, from your professional life to your emotional health.
You're a mom and so much more. Let's figure out what comes next together. Welcome to the Mom and podcast. I'm Suzanne Kearns. I'm a mom and writer, LGBTQ and sex ed advocate. And today I am an Irma Bombeck Writers Workshop registerer. So in honor of Irma Bombeck, I'm showing my mug that I got last time that says, if you can't make it better, you can laugh at it. So looking forward to that when are we going, Missy?
March.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and I'm Missy Stevens, mom and writer, foster care advocate, and I am also an Irma registerer today. Got that done.
And I'm apologizing if anybody can hear drilling in the background. We're getting some housework done. So if you hear some buzzing, that is it.
Periodically, I hear like a little bang or a buzz.
Yeah, it's not the dogs this time. Usually it's the dogs making noise. We're paying people to make this noise right now. But yeah.
And our guest today is Linda Gardner. She's a mom and career coach and founder of Your Next Career with Linda. She has 10 plus years of progressive experience in human resources and recruitment in tech and manufacturing. She successfully pivoted her career from a recruitment agency to corporate and now as a career coach. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you. Thank you both for having me.
Absolutely. We're so glad you're here.
Yes, we have been enjoying watching your social media videos. You do such a nice job with those. For anyone who just needs little tiny bites of coaching or inspiration on a day.
They're so good.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm flattered.
Oh, highly recommend.
I make the career coaching advice, add some humor to it, but it's also adding value to my followers.
Yes, exactly. And so, we just barely scratched the surface in our intro about you. So we would love to hear a little bit more about where your career started, how it's progressed, and all the things along the way that have impacted, decisions that you've made in those pivots.
Of course. So that's a really great intro. And so, as he's mentioned, that over 10 years, I built a abundant profile of being in HR and recruiting. And it was until late last year that I took an extended maternity leave and was laid off from my recent employer. Obviously, at the time, I was devastated, didn't know what I wanted to do. And here I am caring for, I have 2 daughters. And I decided this is the perfect time for me to take a leap and be able to launch my business. So I always wanted to start my own and become an entrepreneur, but never had the guts or the courage to do it. Because you think that whenever you start something new, exactly, the imposter voice just keeps kicking back in. So finally bite the bullet and did it. Here I am a year after into the business, successfully helping a lot of women getting unstuck in their career and help rebuilding their personal brand to leverage their personal brand and build successful careers out of it. So it's been so rewarding. And loving it.
Good. And how old are your daughters?
My youngest is 2.5 and my oldest is 5.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And you're in Canada, so you got a nice maternity leave.
Yes. Yes, a little longer than you guys, but yes, it's very nice.
How long is it there?
You can take up to 18 months. Yes.
Wow.
So I took the full advantage, 18 months, and it was amazing and don't want to go back.
Right. Oh, so amazing. Love it. Well, we're recording this in December, but by the time it releases, it's going to be the new year. And I think a lot of women are thinking about it's new year. They're looking at their careers or maybe the lack of a career at this moment and really thinking about what to do next. And so you talk a lot about alignment and purpose.
Yes.
How do you start aligning and finding purpose? Like, what's step 1 to figuring that out?
Well, how I basically throughout my content and when I have a coaching session with my clients, I have them assess the current situation they're in. So whether they're employed, but not happily employed, or they're unemployed, I want to look for the next step. So reevaluating the situation they're in and essentially setting goals. So we're not thinking of, you want to be a millionaire. Okay, everybody wants to be a millionaire, but you want to be able to set realistic goals for yourself. And what I advise my clients is to always set mini goals in between. So you celebrate every single win along the way. So then you don't feel unmotivated if, one goal does not work out or you fail, because as with failure, it's a learning opportunity to keep chugging away. So you want to be able to set that goal of where you want to be. It could be in a 5 year time span. It could be in a year, however it is. And you want to be able to assess your situation and how you're going to bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be.
So for some of those people that might be like Missy and I were, especially when we first started this podcast,
Right.
we kind of were like, we don't even know what we like. We don't really even know what we want to do. We don't even know what those goals are. And
Mhm.
so and almost to the point where like we don't even know what to align with because we had not done the work of figuring out who we were, what our values were. So for
Right.
someone who's kind of more in a regress state as
Yes.
far as like I don't even know what I want before I set the
Okay.
goals up against it. Um do you have clients like that, or are we special cases? We got
Oh no. Hey, I was at one point in my career too. And it starts with, I guess, to backtrack a little bit, I guess finding that purpose in your career, in your life.
Mm.
And you want to be able to work towards it. So whether, I guess in my case, I'll use my case as an example. I know that I always want to help women who are dealing in a career crisis or in a situation, particularly in my case, being on mat leave and not knowing if I wanted to return back into my career or what the next step is. So finding, digging deep and figure out what my goals are and be able to find steps way to achieve it. So in my case, I was able to build my business. And I'm not an expert at, being an entrepreneur here, but I was able to navigate and figure out things along the way. I met a lot of people, reconnect to my mentors and thought leaders and those in those kind of areas, and just kind of be able to learn along the way. It's a learning journey.
Now, it's interesting you brought the extended maternity leave, and I'm sure probably
Yes.
the rules around this are different in the United States versus in Canada. But one of the things, I went on my maternity leave for 4 months. This was 15 years
Mhm.
ago, 16 years ago. I went on for 4 months, and then my husband did 3 months paternity leave. And even after that, the childcare that we had put on reserve back when I was only 3 months pregnant, still there was no availability. And we
Oh,
ran into
wow.
this issue of like we had to make some decisions around, okay, am I going to become a stay-at-home mom now? And I was kind of leaning towards that anyway. The whole reason my husband went on paternity leave was to kind of give me it was to buy some time to see if space freed up.
The space.
But it
Yeah.
was also to, because I didn't know what I didn't know. Like I didn't know what it was like going back to work until
Yep.
I tried it. And once I tried it, I was like, I don't know. I don't know if this is for me. And I don't think it was necessarily the going back to work. I think it was the work I was going back to wasn't necessarily compelling enough to make me want to
Mhm.
not be with my daughter. But I was really worried that there would be legal ramifications for that. As far as like, okay, this company just covered my maternity leave for 3 months. I just had health insurance for 3 months. And now if I say after just a couple months, oh, sorry, I'm really quitting now.
Mhm.
So are there things that women should be thinking of? I mean, I really do like the idea of trying so you know what you don't know, and maybe
Yes.
if you're on the fence trying to figure out if you can work that with your partner to get your kids some extra coverage, especially in the US when you are lucky if you get 3 months. If you're trying to get a 6 months coverage, it's nice if each of you can
Yes.
take a 3 month period, and then that gives you a chance to figure out if you really would like to go back to work. Might just
Mhm.
be jump in and be like, wow, this is just what I needed, it's the perfect balance. Or you might be like, nope,
Yeah.
like I did, and 16 years later I'm still like, oh, there's no childcare, guess I can't go back.
Now I
But
need mom care. Like, and
Yes.
yes,
someone to take care of me and help me figure out what
yes,
to do.
I know.
Constantly,
That's what
yes.
our podcast is. But yeah, so I'm just really curious. I'm sure, like I said, it's probably different in Canada and the United States, but are there things that future moms should be thinking about around maternity leave that either legally or contractually might
Of
be
course.
issues for whether they decide to go back or not?
Of course. So I get expecting moms or moms who plan to have a family soon, it's best to keep in mind that you want to be able to let the employer know that you will come, because employers, from an HR standpoint, being in HR for over 10 years, I've always had to have that conversation with anybody who's going on maternity leave. Are you planning to come back? You want to have that conversation because
Hmm.
that helps the employer plan whether they're going to backfill your role or are they gonna, fill it in for a contract or permanent role? But my suggestion to all the women out there is to protect yourself and let the employer know that you're gonna come back regardless. So you always have the right to make a decision closer to the return date, whichever day you've
Right.
agreed with the employer. Under the Canadian law, you have a month, so 30 days. Minimum 30 days. You need to let the employer know you are returning or not, or otherwise you lose your position.
Mm.
So
Okay.
it really depends on various states, like in terms of the legislation theirs and what they state, and also looking at the company policy, what they outlined it. Because when you sign your employment contract, you sign a bunch of other policy, you want to be able to review that what you agreed and what you bind to. It's very important because that's going to be able to secure your position when you come back.
Yeah.
So always letting them know that you are going to be returning, and then you can make a decision because you may come back sooner because you might be fed up with, being on mat leave for so long. 4 months might be
Right.
really long, and you want to return back in 2 months. Or you may just stay home with your baby a little longer and you may not come back, but always protect yourself and educate yourself with the legislation as well as the current company policy because those are going to protect you.
Yeah.
I'm going
So
to take us off track, slightly off topic, but I'm so curious as an American who did not have this opportunity. If you take that 18 months off, what do employers do with your role? Like, are there a lot of temporary gigs available because people come in and fill those spots for 18 months?
Mm.
Or do people in your company just absorb that for you? Like, how does that work?
It really depends on the employer. A lot of them just spread it over the team,
Mhm.
depending on if they have the capacity to do it.
Right.
In my situation, they were to build a contract. So the contract was 18 months, and then they eventually, she fulfilled 18 months, and that was done.
Yeah.
But it's spread among the team just because for cost saving purposes. Unfortunately, all the other team member has to bear your workload.
But
The
then
other
it'll
case,
be their turn someday for
yes,
somebody to
that's
take
if
it.
they're in that air in that, they want to have a family or if
Yeah.
they're, yeah. Otherwise, they'll have an 18-month contract position.
that's a really
Yeah.
good question, Missy, because yeah, I mean, it seemed really hard to even cover that 3 months. I mean, I felt like I
Right.
spent the last 6 months of my pregnancy like transitioning my
Yeah.
Yes.
stuff over. And
Well, yeah.
yeah,
And I think, the American sensibility, like everyone is just, this is the way we've always done it. And there's no possible way to do it. So I'm always curious when I talk to people who are doing things a different way, like, how does
Mm-hmm.
it work? And
Yes.
you've made it work. Like Canada has made this work. It's possible. So I
yeah,
just, like,
yeah.
my
Yeah.
curiosity knows no bounds about doing things different and better.
But no, so since we do have a HR pro, are there other conversations that expectant women should be having with their HR those
Mhm.
months ahead of going on a maternity leave? Not to turn this into a full maternity leave episode, but I think
But
this
it's really
is,
interesting and
but it
really
It is
is
important.
really,
interesting. Yeah.
it's making me think of all those things. Like
Mhm.
I
I
didn't
didn't think
review
of it.
what my contract
Mm-mm.
was. I didn't, think about what the state policy. I was so busy just trying to actually transition my work over and make
Yes.
sure that my clients were taken care of that I didn't even really think about what the ramifications were until I finally gave my notice. And then I started having all of this overwhelming guilt of like, I feel like I should have told them months ago, even though I wasn't sure months ago. And like, are they going to ask me to pay back, all this insurance money or like,
Oh my
I
Right.
goodness.
mean, I was really nervous about it. And so, I mean, it sounds like you err on the side of taking care of yourself and making sure
Yes.
that you are protected.
Mhm.
But I think part of that, I mean, is it worth having those open conversations with HR ahead of time, or do you kind of hold your cards close to the chest as far as like, I don't want you to know that I might be thinking of not coming back or what?
Right.
Um, I always err in the cautious of protecting yourself because you never know. Because even when you come back, what if the HR person leaves? What if your current hiring manager is gone? So the relationship might change with the person who's subbing in for them. But it's nice, like from an employer's perspective. Of course, we want to know. We want to be transparent with our employees. But I figured from an employee perspective, you want to protect yourself.
Mhm.
But yeah, I would be transparent when you're comfortable doing so, and starting off with your manager versus HR. because your manager should be the first one to know, because you want to be able to build that trusting relationship with them even when you're off. So they're thinking of you when you're off. So you don't want to be forgotten, even if your leave is only 4 months. For 18 months for us, you can easily be forgotten.
Yes. So, do you still work here?
Yeah, exactly. You're still here. So even having, I suggest women who are on extended mat leave to have like a couple of phone calls to your managers to be like, hey, I'm still here. I'm still alive. I'm still want to come back in. And you can always change your decision towards your return date.
Right.
That makes sense. And are you seeing with your clients or just from people, in the HR world, people who are coming back from extended maternity leave or even a short maternity leave, especially after the world of COVID, looking for more flexibility and getting creative in the role? It may not be the exact role that they left that they want to come back to. And are you seeing the willingness for that, or just more of a demand for it?
Well, I'm seeing a lot of them having more extended leave or not returning and finding something else. Because pandemic has really shown us a lot. Like, it really gives us a true color of our current employer. Obviously, there's a huge demand for, remote work, especially with the young family. It usually bears on the woman, right? On the mother, in that case. So typically I see that a lot of my clients who are looking to transition to a different career, when they're ready to come back, in that case, then they're looking for something that's more flexibility, that can accommodate a young family, ideally working from home more than in the office. Yeah. So there's that transition that as women, we have to deal with, because it's falls on us, right?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I feel like women are rewriting the workplace in a lot of ways. Like we were saying, this is what we need to make it work for us. We're a huge chunk of the population, driving a lot of our economy.
Yes, of course.
It should work for us. And it kind of is something we did want to talk about a little bit more, is if you're thinking of going back to work and you've had a break, whether it's been 16 years or 18 months or 3 months, whatever it is, and you want to start laying that groundwork, like, how do you get a running start so that when you're actually putting your resume out there or actually starting a business, what can you do now? Like Suzanne and I always talk about how we wish we had known or taken the time to figure out years ago how to prepare ourselves for this now moment in our lives. Do you recommend anything special to your clients, books or workshops?
I mean, yes. I'm a huge believer, whether you plan to return to work, like you mentioned, a year from now, 15 years from now, however it is, you want to be able to not stay stagnant and keep learning. And it comes down to, even if you don't exactly know when you're going to return, which kind of field, what kind of industry you want to return to, keep your skills sharpened. So if you wanted to, take a bookkeeping course, or if you wanted to take some other courses, volunteering is a great opportunity if you can squeeze it in your schedule somehow, and just kind of and be able to sharpen those skills. The key is to look for transferable skills. So I have a lot of mom clients who are, returning back into the workforce after a extended period, and they're like, all I know is how to take care of my kid, and that's a hell of a job. Keeping that kid alive, it's a hell of a job, right? We all know that. And that's a lot of skills that we can be able to showcase, the ability to multitask, be able to do everything else. That is something that we can definitely showcase on your resume, keeping your resume as updated as possible. Otherwise, you can reach out to career coaches here, to help revamp your resume. And LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a very powerful source right now, just because it's a digital live resume on the net, and anybody can quickly search you up, and be able to keep that updated. It's also very important. At the same time, keeping yourself and keeping your mind active, attending workshops, seminars, reading a lot of books, you mentioned podcasts, anything to keep yourself active and not staying stagnant. It's very important when you are ready to enter the workforce. So you're not coming in blindly from if you were mat leave in the 1990s and coming back 15 years later, you have an idea what's going on. So it just kind of help you, the future you, even if you don't fully plan to go back, at least gear yourself up so you're ready. Transition will be a lot easier.
And I love that recommendation for LinkedIn. I resisted LinkedIn for a long time because I wasn't working full time. I felt sort of like I didn't belong there.
Yeah.
And I just love that advice to not only keep yourself current on there and talk about the things that you're doing to keep your skills current, but it's a great place to, for lack of a better word, stalk other people who are doing
Oh, yeah.
interesting things and figure out
Yes,
what they know.
Yes.
exactly. And it's a
Yeah.
great way to network. There's a lot of moms on there who are all could be in the same boat. And there's a lot of moms who were in the same shoes. So we're able to
Yeah.
connect with that. There's a lot of different groups like the Mom Project, of which I'm sure you heard of.
Mm.
And even Facebook, I find there's a great community there. A lot of mom entrepreneurs, stay-at-home moms, moms looking to transition back to work. Amazing community there as well.
Yeah. And so I'm kind of the nuts and bolts. Like I want to know, I need a list of 5 things that people should do with their LinkedIn right now. But literally like, okay, so I'm say I'm not me, say I'm someone else. I'm staying home.
Okay.
I've got my kids or, maybe around kindergarten or whatever. I don't know quite what I'm going to be doing, but eventually know I want to go back to work. What does my LinkedIn look like? What are the kinds of things? I know they have the new stay-at-home mom indicator. Do you recommend doing that for people who are staying at home? What level of outreach should you be doing, like sharing other people's stuff, or is it more just a matter of just keeping your stuff current? Like what kind of level of activity do you recommend people have there?
On your LinkedIn, I would recommend, even if you're starting out on a clean slate, I would start with the basic. So basic couple things is have your picture, the current picture, have your headline done just to, so an idea of what, even if you don't hold a current job, just talk about like your skills, your interests,
Yeah.
your passions. In your case, Suzanne, your podcast, like things like
Mhm.
that. What are you doing on a side? And things like that. You can outline that. That's really, it's sort of like the professional summary on your resume. So it really stands out when people look up Suzanne. They're like, oh, she's all of this. Amazing. I want to connect with her.
Mhm.
And then you put all these hashtags and make it all fancy and all. And a couple of things is I would even mention a couple of positions you've held, some passion projects you're working on, volunteer opportunities, education, like all of that. And that way, when you are reaching out to other people in the community, they have a sense of who you are and what you have to offer. There's a lot of groups I mentioned you can join as well. Even again, if you're not even actively looking for a career, but just kind of speak to other folks in your community who have similar interests. And yeah, I would say those are pretty the basic of creating a LinkedIn. And there's also a section for about me section. It's like an elevator pitch. So that's your time to shine.
Mhm.
A mini cover letter is what I tell my clients. So that's where you put all your stuff you jazz up, and then your contact information for people to reach out to you. So it's a great way for people to get to know you a bit more and then connect that way.
I think
Mhm.
even as a writer, like I could write your about me section, but I feel like people might need to find someone like a Linda to help them write their about me section. Like, I know mine's not quite where it needs to be, but I have the hardest time doing an elevator pitch for me. I could do an
Mhm.
elevator pitch for you, but it's really hard to do for yourself.
It
So I feel
is.
like that's a great, that's a good use of coaching to say, let's
Yeah.
craft who you
Yes,
are.
yes, it
But
is.
you
And it,
just need somebody to see it from outside sometimes.
yeah, and I completely agree. Like it's easier to do for someone else
Mhm.
versus doing it for yourself. So have a close friend, a family to kind of just second pair of eyes to have a look at it and get their thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Or would they be interested in speaking to you based on that profile?
Right,
Yeah.
right,
For
Someone who's
now.
honest and give you like the truth.
right. Yeah.
Oh, she's gonna go look at her LinkedIn now.
Mine needs to be sharpened up.
And it's
Maybe that
okay. I
should be a
mean, like
2022 goal.
Oh no, we'll get there. We'll get there. So now for people who are maybe looking at revving things up a little bit, maybe the next year or so, they want to get back to work. Um, I know that, gosh, was it Carol Fishman Cohn? A few people have recommended Toastmasters and
mhm.
Yes.
things like that for building up their networks. And then, just also getting more comfortable with public speaking or just getting out of the house
Oh
that
yes.
might be helpful. So do you have any thoughts on Toastmasters or other organizations like that that could be networking opportunities at the same time being skill building?
Yeah, that's a great association to be part of because it really develops again that getting over that fear of public speaking because you want to be able to, especially if you were to lean it towards that area, that's a way to build your skill and get over that fear.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I actually coach my clients, when I'm telling them to start networking, they're like, oh my goodness,
Oh, it's my least
why?
favorite word.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Right. But it doesn't have to be that way. It's just a matter of having conversation with almost complete strangers, but you just gotta be able to find a common ground between them. And I
Mhm.
find that once you get over that fear and having just a conversation with a regular human on the other side
Yeah.
about something you're really drives you, or
Mhm.
something you're really passionate about, then that person, if they're receptive, and hopefully they are, then you build that chemistry, and then it just kind of snowballs from there.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of getting over that hump and just thinking that that person on the other side is just another human being and just wanting to have a conversation with you.
And Missy, I think we need to start a revolution about this because we were just talking about this on the episode. Well, it just went live today.
Oh,
Christian Finan, a friend of mine who runs this group called Caring Hope that does hope packs for kids who are entering the foster care system. And I was in the PTA with her. We had kids at the same school. And it wasn't until another event that my friend Erica did through a group called Austin Allies that I realized that Kristen ran this amazing Caring Hope group. Even though I knew her from here, like
oh,
I think we fall victim just always having small talk about our kids,
Right.
and Missy was talking about how it took her a year to figure out that someone that she was always arranging who's going to be in charge of paper plates and forks with at the class party was this like amazing doctor, and they'd
I
never,
mean, it
they'd
was like
never,
May before I was like, oh, you're a doctor. I mean, I
yeah,
had no idea. I mean, it's
and
awful. All I knew was she was, so and so's mom. She's
yeah.
like little Timmy's mom. Like,
So
it's crazy.
I don't know if that's an
yes.
Austin phenomenon, but I don't feel like anybody in Austin, which was kind of a blessing when I first moved here because I didn't have to tell anybody. I hated being like, oh, I'm just a mom or I'm a stay-at-home mom. So it
Yeah.
was
Mm-hmm.
almost a blessing, but it's also a curse because I feel like even though I don't want people introducing and leading with what their job is, I love the idea of leading with like, what's a really cool project or what are you excited about
Yeah.
right now
Hmm.
or what's something you're interested in doing instead of just talking about what your kids are doing. There are
Yeah.
so
Right.
many amazing other moms in the pickup lines and at the class parties. And like,
Yeah.
instead of just leading with this conversation about, oh, what's your kid going to bring for lunch to the field trip? Instead be like, hey, are you working on anything you're really excited for next year? And, I don't know. I just feel like we need to have a revolution of the standard of small talk we hold ourselves to
Yeah.
in the
I
school pickup line. I
totally
don't know. But
Yes.
yeah,
agree.
because networking doesn't have to be
Yeah.
at
I think as a mom,
Toastmasters.
I think we're all guilty of this, just always talking about our kids, that we, don't have the opportunity to talk about ourselves anymore. And then when we start talking about ourselves, it's just, oh gosh, it's awkward.
Yeah.
It is. It's so awkward. And yeah, of course, we love to talk about our kids. Like, we're so proud of them.
Yes. But no, I would love and I actually had a friend. I had a blog way long ago called the Dusty Parachute. And I started that as an offshoot of a conversation I had with a friend. And her kids were about 10 years ahead of mine. So I think it's probably the same way that we look back at, people with littles, because now we're ready to talk about what we want to do in life. And she was at
Right.
that point, and she finally, we were at, a little get together and all wine night, and everybody was talking about what their kids were up to and what sports their kids were going to do. And she was just like, stop. Tell me, what are you doing? I don't want to hear about your kids. And that was kind
Yeah.
of her
What are you
rule
doing?
about wine nights and parties moving forward. She's like, your kids seem nice
I
and
love
whatever,
that.
but I am not here to party with them. Like,
Right.
I,
Right. I want to talk to
I
you.
want to talk to you, the
Yeah.
grown-up person in front of my face. So yeah, I
Um,
think the three of us, we're going to start a new revolution. We're going
I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And then we can learn to talk about ourselves. We're out of
Exactly.
practice,
Again,
like you said. Like,
it is.
Yes.
It is.
Normalize talking about yourself. It's okay. And not
yeah.
necessarily talking about yourself like, "Oh, I'm so great. I did this. I did
Right.
this." And I
Yes.
think maybe it isn't. Maybe that's the thing. It's not talking about like all your accomplishments, because I think that's what you get uncomfortable about is talking
Yes.
about like, I've done this and I've done this and I've done this. And no, and people
Mhm.
don't get very excited about that. But like, I'm really interested in learning about stand-up
Yeah.
paddleboard, or I'm really interested about taking a
Mhm.
class like this. Have you ever taken that class? Have you ever da, da,
Yes.
da? And so I
Exactly.
think that's
Yeah.
more of
This
a
is what lights me up.
conversation. Yeah. So that's okay. We're going to do a
Yeah.
manifesto, and then we're gonna, we need a mission statement. Okay. That's I keep on getting on soapboxes this week, Messy.
I have too. Every time we've interviewed anybody, I've been like, and another thing. I gotta calm down.
The whole running list.
We do. We're very motivated on behalf of other people, not ourselves so much.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of great ideas for what other people should be doing.
Do as we say, not as we do.
Oh, well, so I think we're ready for the look, listen, learns. And just in case this is anybody's first visit to the podcast, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. And so the look, listen, learns are a time for us to talk a little bit outside of the area of expertise, but just some stuff that you have been on your own free time watching or listening to or looking at or learning about. So we don't usually like to put our guests right under the gun. So we're going to start with Missy today. So you can check it out first.
I actually have a look, a listen, and a learn today.
What? Show off.
Crazy. I know. I know. It's getting towards the end of the year as we're recording this. We're at the end of 2021. I'm out of look, listen, learns for 2021, but I actually have 3 today, which is amazing. So my first one, I'm getting a visual aid, is this purse. I got to see Suzanne in person today, which is
that was so
you would
fun.
be shocked at how rare that is.
It's so rare.
So, and we got to have coffee with a couple of our friends, and they were all commenting on this bag. So I'm holding it up. It's the super cute bag, and then it has interchangeable straps, so you can wear it kind of like a crossbody. And
the strap is super for people who cannot see it. First of all, it's just the cutest, most perfect shape, like amazing camel color leather purse. But the strap is this gorgeous embroidered, almost like a guitar strap. Is
it
what
kind
it
of looks like a guitar strap. Yeah, and it's like red and blue, and you can change them out. You could change them for every outfit. I do not. This is my strap. But I got it from Social Threads, and it's actually Mother Chic or Mother Chick. I don't know how you should say it, but she's a fashion influencer, and this is her collaboration with Social Threads. So I will link to the actual bag. And there's a bigger version of it as well. And then they sell a couple other bags on Social Threads that can also use these straps. So that is my, I don't know, is that my look? I guess that's my look.
I'm looking at it. Now it's my look.
So this week for my listen is I have been going back into the vault and listening to all the Taylor Swift stuff that she just re-released as her own.
Yes.
You know, she bought back her rights. And I just remember, like, there's a reason Taylor Swift is Taylor Swift. Like, she's great. Her songs are so good. Yes. So I've had some time this week where nobody's at home. My husband works from home. And so we're always home together, but he's actually, and he's been busy this week, and he's had some things out of the house. So like, I've been cranking up some T Swift and enjoying myself and like getting my chores done and dancing around the house. It's been so fun. So that's my listen.
Gosh, I love it.
And my learn is, there's nothing I can really link to or point to, but I thought I would share that by the time you're listening to this, it will have been a couple months ago, but I had to get a breast biopsy after my mammogram this year. And so I think we all think about breast health in October, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but I want to think about it in months that are not October. And I was so thankful through this whole process that I do get my mammograms every year. If for some reason you are 40 or older and your doctor is not ordering them, you need to talk to your doctor and go get them, because even though I was a little bit terrified, like the reason I had my biopsy was because of something they call an architectural distortion, which sounds really not breast-like at all, but it's just the tissue had like pulled to a point in a place where it shouldn't have, apparently. A lot of those, a super high percentage of those turn out to be malignant. So I was a little bit afraid, but I knew that I get my mammogram every year. And so if it was something, I knew we had found it quickly and early, and that comforted me through the whole thing. And I'm very fortunate that it was not malignant. It was benign. My biopsy results are back, and I'm now just healing from a biopsy, but it's just something I wanted to make sure we talk about. I'll probably talk about it again on the podcast. The generations before us, I think it was just sort of like a hush hush thing, but go get your boobs squished, do it every year, check them yourself. I didn't feel anything. There was nothing there to feel, but I know 2 women who have been diagnosed in the last couple months. They felt something, and teeny tiny things, they felt them, and they're getting care now, and, you know, have long roads ahead of them, but they will also cure themselves of this disease because they found it early. Yeah. So that's mine.
So when you do feel those teeny tiny bumps, are they painful?
That my
like
friends who did not, it had no pain. They just felt something
okay.
that wasn't supposed to be there. I have heard people say that they have painful places.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
And
it's
it's
so individualized because I've had
yeah,
friends who have said it was just a spot that like itched, or even
yes,
the skin just felt rough. It felt like kind of like a
yes,
orange peel kind of,
yep,
and our skin starts to feel pretty weird in our 50s. but
right,
but I mean,
right,
so even just a texture change, it may just be the fun of aging, but it's worth getting
right.
checked out.
So I had talked a
Anything.
lot to the women while I was getting my biopsy.
Mhm.
It was a long process. The kind of biopsy I had was not a simple, quick thing. So my hope for you is if you do have to have one, you don't have to have a stereotactic biopsy. Not an enjoyable experience. But so we
Oh
had a ton of time
goodness.
together. And so we were talking and they were saying it's just vastly different what people find, what it looks like, how it feels, how they react to it. It's just different for everybody. And that's, they were hammering home like, spend some time with your breasts, like look at them, know what they feel like, and
Mhm.
know if anything changes, it very likely could be nothing because our bodies do change so much as we age.
Mhm.
And weird stuff happens. I mean, Suzanne and I are both pushing our 50s and weird shit happens every day.
For
So
sure.
it really could just be some strange thing, but it might not be. It might be something a little more sinister. And the faster you find it, there's, I mean, medicine and science are incredible now. They can
Mhm.
do a lot. So go take care of it. Don't be
Yes.
scared. It's scary, but don't be scared to look and feel and go call the doctor.
Yes,
Yeah.
such a good reminder. And
Yeah.
we're all so glad that that is how the tests
Yeah.
results were. Yes.
Yeah. It's a
Oh,
huge relief, but I know not everybody gets that relief. So
yeah.
just also reach out to your people in your life who maybe had a different result from their biopsy because they need a hand to hold for sure. It's
Oh
scary.
Yes.
my
Yes.
goodness.
Oh my gosh, we're going to make Linda follow that. Sorry, Linda.
Oh no. Well, it's good to know, right?
I can't follow
Yeah.
it with my salad spinner, so I'm going to make
Oh,
Linda
totally
follow
you can.
it.
Let's go. It's time to talk about something fun, right?
All right. Mine's not as interesting as yours, Missy. But I'm just started actually reading a book called "You Are a Badass: How to Stop Doubting Your Greatness and Start Living an Awesome Life."
Yes.
And it's recommended to me by another coach. So, have you ladies read it or heard of
Oh,
it?
yes, I
Yes.
do. And yeah,
She's on our wish list, our guest wish list.
that's Jen
I'm
Sincero,
definitely
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I'm very excited about it. I've only read a couple pages in, but was recommended by another coach.
Mhm.
And I know a few people who read it. So yes, that's awesome. If you're gonna have her on your show, I'll
Oh,
definitely tune into
no.
that one.
No, she's on our wish
She's like,
list.
yeah,
Oh, wish
yeah,
list.
hopefully we will.
And well, hopefully she hears this podcast.
Yes.
And that one.
We'll tag her on it.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Earning is America Sign Language. So I'm actually taking a class in American Sign Language. So
That's
it's
awesome.
been very interesting. It's yes. And the reason I wanted to learn it is because my daughter has special needs and I'm trying to learn American Sign Language so I can teach to her. And she can learn the alphabet in like one session I taught it. I'm still, trying to learn just the letters again. But yeah, things like that. Like she's picking up so quickly. So she just keeps me going.
Yes.
So yeah, it's definitely amazing.
Oh, that's so cool. My daughter and I did ASL class. We have the Texas School for the Deaf here
Yeah.
in Austin, which is an incredible school. And their lessons are full immersion. So I think they were like, gosh, 2 hours, I think, once a week. And we would go, and you are not allowed to say a word.
Oh wow.
And it's a really amazing way to learn it, to force you to, because I
Yeah, to
think that,
force you to, yeah.
yeah, because you default to just like either, if you can't say it, you get frustrated and you say it, and you are not allowed to say anything. And even to the point where sometimes my daughter and I would get in the car to go home, and like for 20 minutes we still wouldn't talk. It was very interesting,
That's
and it
so
brought up all
interesting.
kinds of different questions because even as we were driving home, like I was eating something and I was driving, and so it's like, how would you talk right now?
Oh,
if you needed to
Yeah.
do sign. And I know, we kind of asked the teacher once, and they do kind of casual versions of sign where you can get away with it with one hand. And
Yes.
it's very interesting, just like anything else, people adapt and they figure out ways. But it was just very interesting to think about the little in and outs of how you go about your life and how it can be
Yeah.
impacted based on different physical or any kind of needs that you might have. So that's
Yeah. It's
amazing you're
very,
doing that.
yes. And it's really just, again, like you mentioned, it goes back to valuing, like kind of being the present. Because when I take these classes, it's pretty important to kind of be in the present and absorb it all and just,
mm,
appreciate the culture, the deaf culture.
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, it's very interesting and just amazing. I'm like, I don't know if I can ever learn how to slide that, but it
Oh,
keeps you going. It keeps you
yeah.
going
Yeah.
because you're like, okay, I want to at least build a couple of sentences and, have conversation than
Yeah.
just like, you know, broken, broken language, I guess I could call it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I
That's
just think it's
amazing.
as an adult, it's been so long since so many of us have been in a situation where we have to like take a test or
Right.
perform or do a quiz or whatever. And it was very, my daughter and I got pretty competitive there for our final test. And Missy, I know you Missy just took her big test for her Master Gardner certification.
Oh,
It's the same
wow.
thing. Anything that makes you kind of go into a different area that, as a almost 50-year-old woman, it's been a long time since I had to take a test or,
Yeah, it'd been a
anything
long
like
time
that.
since I studied like
Oh,
that. And I
and
had
it
to
Yeah.
figure
comes
out,
back to
how to like,
you. Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
make my notes and it does come right back. And it felt really good to do it, which it doesn't
Yes.
always feel good when you're in the midst of like being a full-time student. But
Yes.
now as an old lady, I love doing it.
And then my daughter kicked my butt at the test, so that was not the fun part.
That's just her young elastic brain.
I know, her little
Yeah.
young brain. Okay, so my look, listen, learns are not quite as meaningful as yours, both of yours. Okay, I've been meaning to talk about this salad spinner for a while. I guess, is this my learn? I don't know what it is. I look at it a lot because
It's
somehow,
so
even though my
cute.
daughter is 16-year-old and has spent like the previous however many years she's been going to school, making her own lunches, packing her bag, getting whatever, and out before I even know it. For some reason, this year, her junior year of high school, it started with a couple of texts like, "Hey, I'm running a little late. Can you start my salad?" Or like, "Oh, hey,
Oh,
can you start my tea?" Now, for some reason, I am like this fully catered lunch program for her. And it has just become our thing that we meet in the
she got your
kitchen.
number.
Yeah, we meet in the kitchen at 8:30 and she gets her breakfast and we just kind of chat and I make her lunch. And so,
I
but
love
I
it.
bought this thing a few years ago because I got really tired of like I used to wash lettuce and then just kind of like slap it like,
Yes,
to get it
dry it in
dry.
towels and stuff.
And or
Yeah,
I'd
in the
waste a bunch
towel.
of paper towels, which and
Mhm.
our other towels are just nasty. So this tiny little salad spinner is it's perfect for one or
It's so
I can
cute.
make salads for up to 4 people in here. It's kind of crammed. I don't know how much it cleans. But then, she has like berries and all kinds of stuff. So I just put it all in here and it's got the little spinner and it gets rid of all the water. Sorry for everybody who's
You
listening
can
to
hear
that. So we will have links to this and a picture of it in the
Yeah,
show
it
notes.
is so cute for people who can't
Yeah,
see it. Like
it's like
it's probably like
4 cups,
I
5
was gonna
cups
say four.
maybe.
Yeah, it's small. It's really cute.
Because yeah, I used to have a salad spinner and like when do I ever need? If this can make enough salad for our family of
Right?
4, like when do you ever need this giant one? So
I'm not
anyway,
sure I have one anymore because I
yeah.
was always annoyed by it. And it's a big, like, bulky thing to keep and
Mhm.
clean and then store.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
that's a
No,
good
this thing,
size.
this thing,
yeah,
love,
I love
love,
that one.
The
love.
lunch, like portion control too.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If only I put cake in there.
Oh, yum.
That'd be a lot of cake though.
Oh,
The full
yes.
birthday cake.
Let's see. And my look and kind of listen is we're going to Hamilton as a family this
Oh, fun.
weekend. And my son, who is 12, we've gone to a couple of plays, like when we were in New York, but this is the first one that he's going to our season tickets of our
Yeah.
Broadway in Austin. And he's always like, "Now which one's Hamilton again?" And I was like, "No, you are not going to be in the middle of Hamilton being like, wait, which one's George Washington?" So I said, "Okay, we are going to," because I know from going there, it's kind of a little echoey
It
and
is. I don't love to see shows there.
yeah, and
Mm.
it's kind of hard to hear the words. So we are forcibly making him watch the Disney version, the recorded Hamilton performance.
Yeah.
And we're doing it with subtitles because even when they're doing it there, sometimes they're so fast or I
It's
don't
so
catch it all.
fast.
So
Yeah.
we're doing it with the subtitles so we can really know who's who and what's what. And at the end of every scene, he's like clapping. So he's super into it. And we've been listening to it. I'm giving my husband a brief break from the Christmas music that I immediately turn on as soon as we eat Thanksgiving dinner. So we've been listening to Hamilton just so I feel like that'll make it a little more interesting when we go see it. And he'll be able to, even if he misses a line or, if something's kind of hard to hear, he'll know what's going on.
Right.
So we've been listening to that. And I've also been listening to, I've run into a real tragedy with my reading in that I am an audiobook listener, and I had finished the book of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue and then went almost immediately into the book Malibu Rising, and it's the same narrator.
Oh, that's confusing.
And it's also the same narrator who did the 8 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo or whichever.
Oh, 7 husbands.
7 I don't know. She had a lot of husbands.
Yeah. All those husbands that Evelyn had.
Coincidentally, that's the same author of Malibu Rising. I was like, because they started talking about Evelyn Hugo in Malibu Rising. I was like, wait a minute.
Oh, interesting.
So all my worlds were crossing, but it's super confusing because the voice that had been the week before, like Satan, is now just some surfer, and it's really disturbing me. So now I have to plan my reading like giving myself a break between narrators. I don't know. It's
right. Like normally you wouldn't think about that.
Yeah.
So now you have a satanic surfer in your head.
I have a satanic surfer. It was really distracting. I had to kind of get myself through it. But yeah, so I've been listening to those, kind of listening and then getting distracted by my listening.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I'm behind on all my books.
I have been cruising because it was my turn to choose the selection of books for book club, and I got so excited about all 5 of them that I've been just like I think I've been through like 3 or 4 of them in the past week and a half. So that's the nice thing about audiobooks is you can just like cruise through them like nobody's business. But then sometimes you get your narrator who is crossing over your worlds and driving
I just
crazy.
made myself a note like don't listen to these back to back.
Yeah, don't listen to those back to back. Or she did the Evelyn Hugo, and I feel like there was another one that she was the narrator for. I'm like, and she's really good. So I can see why she gets hired for all these gigs, but I'm like, no.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah, that's the worst when you get a book that's a good book, but you kind of can't handle the narrator.
Oh, yeah. No, that she's amazing, but yeah, her man sound is so similar that her man Satan is very much the man surfer.
That's so funny. Her man sound.
Yes.
Is it Satan or is it a server?
But anyway, so that is what I've been listening and learning.
Awesome.
And oh my gosh, Linda, we're so excited to have a chance to chat with you. I'm sorry we've been having a little bit of audio difficulties. We want to make sure that people are able to follow up with you, watch your amazing fun videos on TikTok and Instagram. So where is the best place for people to reach out to you or to follow you online?
Of course. So you mentioned it. I'm on, of course, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram. You can also reach me on my website as well. It's www.yournextcareerwithlinda. There's lots of services that I offer around career coaching. I predominantly do one-on-one career coaching. That's why I started my business. Be able to help women who are feeling stuck and want to be able to get out of whatever they're dealing with now. And transitioning back into workforce is also an area I'm going to help, that I'm continuing to help women with.
Wonderful. 2 of our favorite things.
Yes.
Getting
Love women
unstuck
helping
and
women.
getting back into the workforce. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we're so glad we finally got a chance to meet you.
Yes.
Encourage everybody to go check out your website, follow your videos, and learn more about you. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you both for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I've had lots of fun. Like, this is one of the most fun podcasts I've ever been. So thank you for that.
Yay!
Hey, good.
All right. Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
You too, both. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us for the Mom and ... podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show today. And if you know someone else who could benefit from today's episode, be sure to share it with them. Also, please subscribe and rate us wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find links to all the things we discussed today in the show notes over at our website, momandpodcast.com, with the AND spelled out. In between shows, you can find us at the socials, including our private Mom and Community Facebook group. You can find links to the group, all of our socials, and our questions and comments section over at our website, momandpodcast.com. Thank you so much for your support. We appreciate you so much. Now go out there and make your ellipses count.